Um, so this is the agenda for the day. What we're going to talk is that uh, what is the importance of the software systems when you scale, when you grow. So you will not be able to scale what you can't systemize, right? So that's the main thing I'm going to bring into you. And then what does Zoho Finance offer for enterprise, right? And then we will go into talk about some success stories of large customers using Zoho Enterprise, Zoho Finance, and then what is the sneak peek into the future of what we are coming from enterprise side of it. See, I am taking the risk of repeating few slides what Prashant has presented, but I'll get deep dive in with the use cases of how customers actually using Zoho Finance for enterprise. So bear with me. If you see the same slides again, I will dig deep into it and then see that. Yeah. Again, said you're going to sleep, so I'm actually giving you a cupcake. So let me start with a small story. When I first came to US in 2012, right? I don't know how many of you know this shop. It's called Crumb's Cake Shop, which was there in US, and they had one of the best cupcakes I've ever tasted. So my first time in New York, I just stumbled upon this shop, and then I had this cupcakes, which was the best in the world. I packed 2, 3 back home. So it was that tasty. So again, second time it was like 3, 4 years gap, and I came back to US in 2017, and I went to the same shop. I couldn't find it there, right? So I couldn't get my cupcake, but I got a story for this presentation. So when I was preparing for this presentation, so I thought, okay, I remembered the story. I'm not making it up, huh? Okay, I didn't Google it because it's just I'm not making it. This is this thing which stayed with me, that why such a beautiful tasty cupcake shop has to shut the shop, right? That stayed with me for I think 6, 7 years right now. Like 2007, they shut the shop if I'm not wrong in 2014. So it's been 9, 10 years. So the great cupcake factories, right? So the reason what there are multiple reasons why the cupcakes, the crumb cup shape failed. But one reason what is that the systems, right? They had an amazing product. Uh, but they expanded well because when they shut the shop, they had 70 stores across US, right? So they had amazing product, they have amazing this thing, but they were not able to scale up, and because it was not supported by the systems whatever they had. There may be hundreds of reasons. They had some reasons, or they had high pricing, they didn't actually expand their menu and everything. So this all can be the reason, but when they grow, they were not able to catch up with the kind of systems what they want when they grow. So that is why I say all of you are like small business players or medium business players, you have to grow, you want to grow, you want to develop. When you develop, is your software supporting you to grow? That is important, because you may have an amazing product, but you are not able to have your system to grow along with you, you will not be able to succeed in the future, right? So what went wrong with Crumbs when you dig deep for this presentation? So what I understood is that they didn't have a kind of a centralized inventory tracking. They had inconsistent operations across stores. They saw stores siloed, right? Their systems were siloed to different stores. They had manual processes, everything. So they had the inertia, they had the kind of aggression to grow to 1 to 70 shops, but they didn't think through that. So that is the kind of a big lesson I want all of the SMB players to start with, that when you want to grow, make sure that your systems will grow along with you. So that's the big lesson. So that's the moral of the story. So the booming brand collapsed under the weight of its own unmanaged growth, right? So that is the result of what it happened to the Crumbs Bake. So this is the big thing which I coined after that. I don't know if it's there or not. So you can't scale what you don't systemize, right? So Crumbs didn't fail because they had bad cupcakes. They failed because their system couldn't support their scale. So this is a big lesson. There may be n number of reasons for any business to fail, but this should not be the reason. Your system should not be the reason for you to fail, right? So that is why we think digital transformation is mandatory. Before probably 7, 8 years, you can say digital transformation is a good to have, but now it's a mandate, right? It's very important you should have. So but what happens is that when you wanted to transform, when people actually move from a small business to a larger business or a mid business, what they think is that they have to actually change their entire systems. They actually go on to a system, they wanted to revamp entire thing. So these are the results from Gartner, which says that 69% of financial transformation programs are slower than projected. and then 30% of it fail to deliver than the expected benefits, right? Why it is happening? Because when you actually try to actually revamp your entire systems, there are two challenges which comes. One is the scale and the cost and the time involved to it, right? So you can't revamp the entire system that one day you wake up in the morning and then say, yeah, hi, I wanted to grow, so I'm changing my system. So that's not the way, right? There are people doing that, but there are miserable stories, right? There's one good thing. One of my friend who actually has a small business says that I wanted to change, but I changed my financial system overnight, but it affected my business for 6 months of time. So because these are your operations, your customers can't wait for your software update, right? You should do in a way it is not affecting the customers, right? And second thing, it falls short of your objectives, right? The Forbes thing says that 70% of digital transformation projects fail, and then it doesn't actually get to its objectives, right? So why? What is the problem, right? The second asset, as I said, in the scale and the cost, the learning curve on all the employees. So what is the alternative is Zoho Finance. Yeah, I have to do this. So the difference why I'm saying is that if you wanted to transform your business, if you want to build and scale your business, go with an targeted solutions for incremental transformation. So solve something what your business needs today, right? For example, you start a small business, you just need an invoicing software, right? You just need accounting software. Start what your business needs today, and then you can actually, when you grow, you can add as a modular systems growing forward. The challenge what they say is that when you use a small system, when you grow, it may not scale up. But that is the thing what Zoho Finance bring into the table. So to the smaller business, to the larger business, you can add modular and also scale up when you need, right? You can start something with what your business needs today and then add up, and when your business grow, it also supports you. So what are the advantages of going with Zoho Finance? Mainly, you can scale up, scale down any point of the business need, right? Because businesses are not always linear. So you find challenges in your business and everything. So you can scale up, scale down whenever you want to go, and subscribe as you go, right? When you can pay whenever you want. When you go for a larger systems, when you want to do it, you can actually pay a lot for the IT infrastructure, getting the systems in place. But in this case, you can actually pay as you go. It's a subscription based thing. And the deployment, this is the bigger thing, because there are a lot of CFOs or the IT people, they take years for implementing the systems when they grow, when they scale up. But in this case, when you take an incremental approach and a sequential approach, you can actually deploy the system in weeks. You don't need to wait to get it affected your operations. And one more thing which always people come back to me saying that, hey Satish, you have a ERP which has a kind of the data which is across the same system. So I have invoicing, I have books, I have expense management, I have inventory, everything actually speaks to each other and the single source of truth. So when a system like Zoho Expense Zoho Finance, which is built on the same platform, the same single source of truth is here. So when you change something in your invoice, when you change something in your inventory, when you do something, it actually changes across the system. So that is how it scores. So that when you buy single product or a single software, you can keep on adding further based on your requirements, but the single source of truth of information remains the same, right? And then integration, so which is the big changeover from the regular systems. So this thing, integrations, and then the updates. So you don't need to wait for the updates; it's automatically done. And then finally, which works because I'm in US for last 18 days. I run my entire office operations in phone, right? So which is not possible when you go for a kind of a system which will not give that leverage, right? So you can run your entire office in phone everywhere, wherever you want. So now coming to, okay, now we all said this is the kind of route. So but why Zoho Finance for enterprise, right? So there are four things which Prashant has touched upon. So I'll just dig deep and then give you with examples of how customers are using it. So first is extensibility, scalability, flexibility. These are the four things what you want to look for in your software or system when you go from a small business to larger business. You have to see whether your software has these four features to actually see when you scale up whether it works for you. First, let's talk about the composable model architecture with Prashant has touched upon. So like, for example, as I said, when you start with a small business, you just need a kind of invoicing software. But when you grow, for example, you will add upon to a accounting software, you'll have an inventory management, then you will have a kind of commerce to handle your online sales, then you add up expense management. So all this, you don't need to affect your existing systems because these are modular. The Zoho Finance, for that matter, is not a monolithic block, right? These are individual blocks which can be built upon. You just need to plug in like your Lego, right? And everything works in the kind of synchronicity. So when you need one thing, you can keep on adding. The data is across and same build up. And this is what I will take an example of a global IT company with 5,000 employees. See, normally what happens when you actually go with a system like Zoho Finance Suite? I'll take an example of travel request because that is where it's very close to my heart and which I work. So when you start with your travel and expense management for your employees, what you need is to first solve the problem of capturing a receipt. So that is the basic thing what an expense management does, right? You just capture a receipt, you record your expenses. But when you grow, what will happen is that you'll have a lot of people traveling. So you need to add your online booking tool, right? You need to add your corporate cards. So the system of Zoho Finance is so extensible that you can keep on adding whatever things you want. You don't need to stay with only the core of what an expense management tool does. So there are like MNCs who needs to actually track their sustainability in travel. They want to know how much of CO2 they are actually burning. So you need that to be built in part of it. There are people who want to build in their visa management system inside. There are people who want to build in their guest house management inside. There are people who want to build different systems. They wanted to maintain their, for example, the VAT reimbursements. They wanted to bring the purchase catalogs inside. So this is possible only when you have your system flexible to actually extend whenever, wherever they want, apart from their core functionalities. So this is a great example of you adding any number of possible subsystems, what I call, to build your entire tech space of travel experience. So for this, you need the capability in the software to accept all the subsystems inside, or else you will stay only with, and then you have to go for a separate system for mileage tracking for that matter. You have to go for a separate system to track your sustainability. So how many systems you will build on, right? You need a system which you can add everything together. So that is the first thing when you want to look forward for when you look for your enterprise, right? And second thing is the connected finance. See, the days are gone when the software is just a software. It has to be also connecting with your external finance tools, right? You have to connect your bank feeds, you have to connect your card feeds. Uh, with Zoho Expense, for example, you can actually connect your cards in real time. So as soon as you swipe your card in Starbucks anywhere, your transactions comes in immediately. You don't need to wait for it. Or else what will happen is that you actually go, your employees go in the month end and then sit and calculate all your expense, sit on the pile of receipts. Their job is to do sales or do some finance operations. Their job is not to actually submit expenses during month end. So why it happens? Because they are not getting the transaction on time. For example, if it is not real-time feeds, they will get the transactions after 2 days. And they can't sit and do the expenses after 2 days because they have some other jobs. They go to month end, it affects your productivity. So when you have real-time feeds, you have everything coming in real time. So you finish your expenses on the go so that you don't need to sit in month end. So that is the capability what your software should have to connect with the external finance systems, right? And second thing is the high volume, which Prashant has touched upon, right? When you scale, your volumes get bigger, right? For example, with Zoho Expense, we have a kind of a high scalability so that the server takes, when you see more demand coming in, it doesn't go to one particular server. It actually switches to more individual servers. For example, these are examples of the companies which are using. There is an edtech globally using 20 million invoices they process annually. And one business which I know, I use it, I can't take their name, but they use 2 million bills annually to process through Zoho systems, right? And medical equipment. So these are the actual use cases. I don't have permissions to use the logos, but these are actual use cases which the Zoho will help you to actually take the high volumes. So this is what exactly the business is. When you grow, you have to take high volumes. So see whether your system is scalable to do that. Then the customization. So this is an example of one of the world's large tire companies using the custom modules. So for example, what they wanted to do is that if an employee is traveling, they don't want to climb the hotel charge and per diem same together. So we can build a custom function. So if someone is doing the both, it will actually highlight. Then if the employees are taking Uber on a weekend, you have to do that. So these kind of customization, and they want their, for example, kids tuition fees has to be reimbursed. So this and all will not be available in a kind of a regular system, right? You have to build a custom. So your tool, for example, Zoho Expense or Zoho Finance has this custom, like the people who attended the session yesterday would have know how much of custom functions we can build. And one more thing is also, when you grow, you have large cost centers, right? And you wanted to budget every cost. For example, in a particular location, for example, in Texas, you know which employees spend more, right? So you have to capture all those with the GL codes and everything. So that complexity, you can build custom modules with it. So when you grow, you'll have thousands and thousands of people who are working with GL codes. You'll know a larger enterprise will have GL codes running thousands of pages, and you should be able to capture those GL codes along with the cost centers properly, and you should be able to budget it. For that, you need all those custom modules. So that is one scalability. And then the data orchestration, which Prashant has touched upon, is also the interoperability is not just the movement of data between systems. What you do with the data, how the data can be used properly. It's not. It's no more that, okay, I have data. That's not enough. What are you doing with the data? How the connected systems process the data. For example, if you're connecting Zoho Expense or a Zoho Billing to any other product, it should know what exactly the data mean. So Zoho Finance has that data authorization, which helps you to actually sense the data. This is coming from this thing, and this is how it has to be processed in the other system. So that is what one USP of Zoho also. And the other thing is also on the localized features, right? When you grow as an organization, you grow geographically in different locations, right? Your system should have the localized features to handle it. For example, I will take in case of Zoho Expense in US, we have the GSA per diem rates already pre-built, right? You don't need to actually put your GSA rates once they change the rates every year. You don't need to manually import and upload, right? And we have the per diem rates, we have the mileage rates already inbuilt in the system, so you don't need to do that. So it's not only for US, for example, Zoho Expense has for Germany, it has for UK, so you don't need to do. So once you grow, your software or the system should be localized to the particular locations. And then again on the peak load management, so this is very important for a business when it scales, right? Because I normally face these questions from a lot of my team members on the holiday sale. Holiday sale is a big thing in US in case of a Black Friday sale and everything. So your system should respond to your sale, right? When you grow, if you want to sell, because I know a player who was selling small water bottles, just small water bottles for the kids. He actually designs it cutely based with their name and their, because they will ask what is their favorite cartoon character, they will build that thing. So during the holiday season, they get huge orders. For example, they get 20-30x of order in the holiday season because everyone want to give their children in the customized holiday name, and they make their children look like that character and then do it. So that kind of thing, they've been doing it, and then they get 30x of orders during holiday season. So your system should be able to do it. With Zoho Finance Suite, we have the horizontal scaling, what we call in the data centers, where based on the demand, the data centers actually expand and take those orders, right? For example, there can be payment happening every second. You need to be able to handle it. So there are multiple payrolls run happening in weekly, monthly, and then the books should be closed annually, semi-annually. So this kind of peak load management should be part of your systems, right? And again, the global tax invoicing, when you grow, you should have the compliance to the each and every region as part of your growth journey. And again, the certifications, which Prashant has touched upon, I will not put more emphasis on this because because we are ready. Zoho Finance as a product is ready and locally compliance for payment handling, for your local compliance and everything. And then we are also like compliance in case of reports for the revenue recognition in case of ASC 606 and ARFS 15. And very important thing is that, again, what I said, is that what you do with your data, right? Because data is not, and when the AI era, which probably you would have heard the presentation in the morning, it's not only about data, how your data is ready for the AI era, right? How do you convert the data into insights, right? With Zoho, you can actually build multiple out-of-box financial reports. Most of you use the Zoho Finance Suite has the inbuilt reporting, but you can also integrate with Zoho Analytics and build like a lot of out-of-box reports. For example, there is one agricultural business giant. They are into fertilizers. Globally, they do a 2.6 billion. They have actually built near about 50 plus, I think 55 as we speak, 55 out-of-a-box reports. So it gives you exactly location-based reports on which employees spend where. For example, which airlines being you are spending, which are the routes you are spending more, what are the hotels they are spending. For example, which cities, if you can go to them, I am very surprised to see that they can pull out the report which city they have actually traveled more in which airline. For example, if you take New York, they will pull out a report saying that for New York, which airline has been used most and which employees you used which airline. So they can drill down to a level of it. Which what it does is that see how you apply data is more important. It's not only getting the reports. First is data, you convert it into insights, and what you do with the data. So when you know that for New York, you actually take this flight 70% of time, you have more negotiating power to go to the directly at the airline and then say, hey, I'm in. If you don't have the reports or if you don't have the data, you will not be able to know when, for example, an American or a Delta or any hotel chain comes to you and say uh, how many nights you can actually confirm me for. You will not have, you will not know all those things. So the reports is not only reports, you have to see how it make your advantage. So I know this company with this reports, they have reduced their actually the travel business expenses by 5% just by having visibility to it. Now they can negotiate further. They have actually decided they will go with only one hotel chain. They will use only one airline. They know which sectors they fly more. So they actually did it. So how do you use the analytics is more important. And then the last point is again the security, which is more important. Once you grow, the security becomes a kind of a cornerstone for every decisions what you make. Right? In case of your data protection, because the data protection laws changes from every region and country, so you should know which country, which laws applies. And then, for example, and in case of Zoho, most of you know, we own our own data centers. So that is also one point of thing. You can have all your audit trails, logs, everything recorded, because any point of time you can have the auditor coming in asking what has happened to your reports and everything. So you can pull out all those data and everything. And very, very important, the user role and permissions, because when you use different system, you can give roles and permissions for people who wants to access this, who don't want to access this, right? And that is more important. And again, the last point is that, okay, all of this is fine, but how will you help me from a business? So we have a dedicated enterprise business solutions team. When you grow as an enterprise, we have a kind of person who will be onboarding you from the day of knowing your requirement, right? From the need gathering to your project management. So they will be a kind of a hand holding you to from the beginning to end. There's a dedicated team to do that. You will get a dedicated project and account manager, end-to-end services starting from your need gathering to your implementation to onboarding till a year. And then again 24/7 support in case of multi-channel. Yeah. And finally, very important thing, which is my favorite part of this entire presentation, is that you need software, but software should actually take you forward. It should not be your anchor, right? Because you are actually getting into a new software or buying or changing a new software to take your business forward. And this is one which I recently read from on LinkedIn posts. We bought X software. I hope you would have figured out by now what is it X software is. We bought X software to run our business, not to learn, right? This is what most of the people do. They spend years and years to learn the software, and then when they learn that particular software, then it gets outdated. So your software should help you to be go on the business, start from the day one, and then it should actually help you to take your business forward. You should not spend more time in life. So Zoho is totally a kind of a DIY. It's easy for employees to learn, easy for your admins to learn. You don't need to spend more time in actually learning the software. You can actually do a plug and play and start working from day one. So this is more important when you have to look at when you are looking to scale up and looking for a software. Again, this is again also touched because when you talk about the global enterprise, you have to be supported by the global consulting leaders. We work with the top four, the big four, what we call Deloitte, KPMG, NY, and PwC and Great Northern. We already have customers. In fact, Deloitte, for example, has separate team to handle Zoho businesses, right? They have recruited people for Zoho books to handle Zoho books. So they started pushing Zoho because it has been only dominated by the oracles of the world, SAPs of the world. Now we are seeing the change that the big four is starting to actually onboard people, recruit people to actually give the solution for Zoho. This is the kind of a change what we are seeing. This is a sign that we are ready for the enterprise and we can actually do that. This is the second case. I don't know whether if you've heard about this. This is the mother company. This is the brand, but they have the products like your Mother Dairy. They have Tiffany's chocolate. They have oils. They are the big company based out of Middle East. They are FMCG major. They are using also the Zoho Expense. They have around 50 plus countries, right? This thousands of approvers. The main challenge what they face is this: they have multiple tools because different countries they use multiple tools in case of ERP. So they wanted us to be integrating each and every tool. So that is what I was talking about, the extensibility part and the interoperability part. So when you have multiple systems, you should be able to be open in connecting with those systems and then moving the data across the system. So this is very important, which we solved with IFCO, right? So we have implemented Zoho Expense across 50 countries and 70 plus business units. We have integrated with multiple ERPs within the same company because every country uses a different ERP. So we have integrated with Oracle in one country, we integrate with SAP in other countries. So we as a company, or we compete with a lot of these players, but we also collaborate with it. So we are flexible enough to actually integrate with all these ERPs. We also built a fully automated end-to-end travel system where employees can book their trips accordingly, right? And again, all these things are mobile first, right? Zoho Expense as a product is a mobile. You don't need to actually touch your as a employee, as a user. You don't need to go to your desktop. You can just use your mobile to handle all your expenses. As I say, I use my mobile for all my travel, everything, because Zoho uses Zoho for its 17,000 employees, right? So we ourselves are an enterprise case study, right? But I didn't put it here. So, but that is one thing, and you can see the benefits for the paucity of time. I'll just actually take you through on things and payments, which I think you will have a separate session of it. One thing, we are one of the few players who has a kind of a native payment gateway as part of the software, which I was telling about, the extensibility part, where you want your native payment gateway also to be part of it. So, and we also build the separate verticals in case of manufacturing, restaurants, retail, distribution going forward. So, because the ERPs, they want a kind of a vertical approach, we also build that in future. That's from my side. Thank you. I hope I'm on time.